Have you checked the children?
Hi, I'm Chucky. Wanna play?
Sometimes that is better.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Horror Show. I'm Cecil Laird.
And you have Jaime and Fuego here.
Jaime and who?
Jaime and Fuego.
All right.
Jaime and Fuego.
I'm just
to give
making
some
sure.
Proper specifics.
All right.
Yes.
Guys, we are here to review the 2020 re-bequel of The Grudge.
Yes.
What's a re-bequel, you ask? Why? Let me explain.
That is a term coined by this man.
It's a term that I tried to coin not too long ago, where it is both a remake, a reboot, and a sequel, all at the same time.
Yeah.
This qualifies as one of those.
Truly.
So this one we're going to talk about in our normal way, which is we're going to start with our overall thoughts, then we'll talk about the story, the acting, the effects, the sound design, all of that good stuff in turn. Just before we went and saw this movie, we actually saw and reviewed the original movie. Guys, we're talking about The Grudge, which is, this one is the fourth American iteration of this story. Technically, the first three were a continuous story, so this is, yes, a sequel, yes, a spin-off, yes, a reboot, because it's launching a new sort of continuity. Yeah, it's kind of all of those things. And
it's like kind of a sidestep in that degree.
Yeah. So if I'm going to give my overall thoughts, I'm going to say that this movie did its best, and it succeeded in some fronts, while not succeeding as much in other fronts. I will say that it's a more focused feeling story for a while, and then it starts to lose its focus and start jumping around in time, kind of the way that part 2 and 3 start losing their focus and start jumping around and stuff like that. So I wasn't as big a fan of the time jumps, but it was still an okay enough story with, if you like the original movies, I watched all 3 before going to see this. This fits in the continuity. So if you're a completionist, you need to watch this. Is it great? No. Fuego?
Yeah, it's definitely not great. One of my biggest complaints about this, and I even complained about this when we reviewed the original American remake with SMG, Sarah Michelle Gellar. Represent, I love you. Marry me.
Okay, relax.
Sorry, Freddie Prinze. But, with this one, it is just so much just recreating a lot of the beats from that first film, in the fact that, okay, we have new people moving into the house. Ditto. We have a nasty, like, prior history of the house with people killed. Ditto. We have like, tortured cop who is in, like, the midst of this, and he's investigating a new, like, incident, and then he also has, like, major, like, there's, I don't know, people who, he cared about who were either lost or whatever in the previous one. That's also a factor. And, we have our main protagonist, who in this particular case is another blondie, and yet she is not a nurse. She is a cop that is coming into Pittsburgh from a previous place. And the framing device that just leads us into all of this is that somebody is talking to Yoko.
Well, hang on. Well, your overall thoughts. Stick to your overall thoughts. We're getting into story a little bit.
I'm sorry. I'm dwelling. Dwelling.
I don't even know what that is. All right.
I'm dwelling, and
guys, we had to grease our gears
yes.
with some alcohol after this movie a little bit. So just so you know, going into this one a little bit.
Thank you for giving me that distinction.
I'm gonna get you a little bit of an out on this one.
Thank you so very much, man.
It's earned, because this movie was rough, dude.
Yeah, exactly.
It deserves a couple of afterwards. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there was like dwelling and dwelling.
Again, I don't know what that word is, but you like it enough to use it twice, so let's go with it.
It's a combination aspect of
dwelling and delving. Okay,
that
I got you. I get you.
Sorry,
let's go with it.
Sorry, guys.
Delving into the lore.
But that is really what this film does more so than anything for me. In all of the Damien Bichir stuff, and
what? Who? Damien Bichir?
Is that the proper terminology?
Damien Bichir. If you're talking about the dude with the mustache,
I've always
Damien Bichir.
I've always Picard. Anyway.
I've just heard it pronounced Bashir a lot of times. Bicchir.
Okay.
Damien Bashir.
Well, if that's the proper pronunciation, then Cillian Murphy is the proper pronunciation.
Is it Killian
as well.
or is it Cillian?
It is
It is
Cillian.
Killian.
It
Okay.
is
Well, I said
Cillian,
Cillian in that trailer reaction. So
Yeah.
Fuego's bringing that up to correct me on something that I said in a reaction that he watched, since I just corrected
And
him.
to kind of cover my ass to the slightest degree because of the fact that I'm
Cool.
just like, oh
No,
my
you
God,
just
I'm
tennis that son. Don't act like
I'm
you weren't just
embarrassing
trying
my-
to say like
I'm
you
embarrassing
fucked up a
myself.
name too, man. I got it. I heard
I'm
you. I
embarrassing
heard you.
myself. No,
I
man.
see it. All right,
Yeah,
so
but-
let's
but
overall
I mean,
thoughts though.
but
were
I
you
mean,
satisfied?
overall
Were you
thoughts-
not satisfied?
I mean, it was decent enough. It was like so many callbacks to the fact that, okay, we have like the cop who has the tortured history that is associated. We have the house that had prior owners. And
Yes,
then we
yes, it's
see-
very Force Awakens. It's a lot of the same beats.
It is very much of that regard. It's the, Jurassic World.
But did you
and
enjoy it? The question is your overall thoughts. Did you enjoy it?
decent. I didn't
Decent,
hate
okay,
it. And
okay.
I've seen like a lot of people like just trounce on this film and then
Really? Already?
Already. Yeah. Yeah, because it was I mean, I don't know.
I hadn't seen that many reviews of it yet, so the story of this one does spin out of the original continuity. So this one starts off in 2004, which is when the original American Grudge takes place. Now, that original American Grudge starts off with a young caregiver by the name of Yoko watching over an old woman, and then Yoko disappears, and that's when Sarah Michelle Gellar shows up. Apparently, there was another caregiver that was in between the two. So when Yoko disappeared, this other caregiver, I can't remember her last name, but she was there and she spent one day there helping out and then left and left a message for Yoko going like, I just didn't feel right. I'm going to go home. I'm sorry. I can't help you. And she goes back to America.
Yeah, and in that case, it doesn't matter because she is the one who is taking this, like, spiritual virus of sorts, like, back to the States. And that's where this new story takes place, obviously.
Indeed. So now she brings the curse over to America, and this movie takes place over the course of 3 years, realistically. 2004, 2005, and 2006. It starts in 2004 when you see that happen. Then it flashes forward to 2006 when we meet this cop, this female cop who moves into the neighborhood with her son.
Yep.
And
her husband has just died.
Her husband has just died from cancer recently, and so she is sent. Her very first investigation is this car in the middle of the woods that has this burned up body in the middle of it that we don't know much about, but it starts her on the path of going to this house, and she goes inside and encounters Lin Shaye in her very crazy state, which we see in the trailer, and so she's now stepped inside. The cop has now stepped inside the house, and this American house now has a grudge curse as well that starts to follow her. The other part of the story is the cop that she meets, this cop, the cop that's been in town for a while, who lost his partner as a result of the events from 2004 and 2005.
Yeah, which is where I mentioned the similarities. I mean, in the previous film in 2004, there
He has
was this
experience,
Cop,
yeah.
Exactly. He was like, my friends had investigated the murder in 2001, and all of them, disappeared and died in strange ways, and so on and so forth. And he tells that to SMG in the previous film, the original Grudge film, at least on the American side. And there is similar kind of plot beats.
Yeah, well, so that's the thing. It's the cop's story, and then it also tells the story of the family once she got back to the house after being in Japan, as well as telling the story of a couple that was in the
previous
house.
family.
No, in between those two families. Right? So there's 3 different family stories in this movie. So when I say it started off more focused and then lost focus, it's because it started off on the female cop, and I was like, oh, they're making this way more straightforward than the other Grudge movies. I think I like that. And then they're like, no, we're not. This is still going to jump around like the other Grudge movies. I hope you strapped in. And unfortunately, I'm like, okay, they're jumping around again. Yeah. So I lost interest with the amount of jump arounds that we got, and the pacing became an issue as a result. Yeah. So, I mean, overall, the story, that's as much as we can say without spoiling it. But if it sounds convoluted, it's because it is. Yeah. And it's unnecessarily so. Like, if it had been a straightforward film, I think that I would have walked out more satisfied.
Yeah, and that's where it's really tough to say a lot, because we have to segue into the storytelling here. Mm-hmm. And we jump back a few years, and we have John Cho and his pregnant wife, and they have just purchased this property, and they are trying to get into the real estate game.
Well, 2004 is the girl from the beginning. 2005 is the John Cho story.
Yeah, like
and
Lin
Shaye story.
Prosperity.
And 2006 is the cop story.
Yeah.
So it's all 2 years. It's crazy.
Yeah, there are massive amounts in that regard to take into consideration. And so, yeah, I mean, at least for me, the story that had the most heartwarming aspect, and it wasn't Lin Shaye and the older, like, husband and stuff. It was, in fact, the whole real estate angle. Mm-hmm. That was the one that really just hit me the hardest and maybe the saddest. And that's actually the basis primarily for all of the just otherworldly activity that transpires for the most part. I mean, you know, that's kind of
it's the basis, yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of the catalyst behavior-wise for, like, most of these people, mm-hmm. and for everything that they encounter. And it's I don't know. It shows where this film for me, story-wise, lost so much of the Japan connection that we saw in everything.
Takashi Shimizu. Takashi Shimizu. That's what it is. It's Takashi Shimizu.
Okay. Yeah. Well. So I saw just say Taki. Taka's like stuff that he did as far as the original inception of this property and all of that badassness, and shifting over to the American market and trying to make it intriguing and compelling and so on and so forth. He did a decent job, man, and his lack of presence here, I felt, was a glaring aspect. And you have seen the direct-to-video, mm-hmm. Number 3 from the previous iteration of this trilogy and stuff. Mm-hmm. I haven't seen 2. I haven't seen 3 from the last time they were trying to do Grudge movies, and yet we still have, Rob Tappert, we still have Sam Raimi, we still have all of those prior producers on board for this one, so...
A lot of them might be in name only, though, dude. You gotta keep that in mind.
Obviously, but I mean, that's more of an EP standpoint as opposed to, like, a full-on producer standpoint.
Well, what did you think of the acting? Let's keep it a focused here. So what did you think of the acting?
I thought the acting, from short-haired cop girl, it was decent. Damien Bashir. Yeah, there will eternally be disagreements about his pronunciation. I thought he was better in The Nun. I did really find him more entertaining. I thought his pronunciation was better. He's obviously an international actor, and this is not me trying to, be in a situation where I'm just like, oh, you're, acting in North American films, and the, delivery is not so great, but I felt less enthused with everything from him, and John Cho was well utilized, but underserved in the fact that I wanted more from him. I wanted his story with his wife on the real estate aspect to be like a major standpoint, like the crux, like the main thing that we focused on throughout the predominance of the film, and it was like a third, like a quarter of it, you know? And so, I mean, he was great in it. I mean, ever since Searching, I realized that he is a tremendous dramatic actor, and he has range, man, and he is really, really good and deserves more opportunities to, flex his dramatic muscles. And
take a step to your left. Do me a favor.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, no, thank you. No.
Yeah, and
I
that's the
agree
way
with
that
you.
I feel about him and just all of his like artistic aspects.
Yeah,
essentially.
Damian Bashir was a bit underserved, and I think John Cho was also underserved. I think I did like the cop character, but because they tried to divide it into sort of 3 different storylines,
That was the
no
toughest
one
part.
really felt like they were properly addressed and served well. You know what I mean? Like, it all felt truncated. It all felt rushed. It all felt hurried. No one felt like they really had a full story because it was like, we got to get back to this. We got to get back to this. We got to get back to this to explain this, to explain this, to explain this.
Yeah, there was this truncated division.
And it wasn't that way for the first like 15, 20 minutes. And I was like, oh, this is going to be good. And then it started to switch up and I was like, oh no, here we go. And then it couldn't sustain itself. It's a bit of a house of cards. And so when it starts to collapse, when things start to happen, it's like, oh, we have to see what happened in this time. Then we have to immediately see what happened this time rather than, you know, pacing them out properly and stuff like that. So I think that it unfortunately affected the rest of the film. I kind of segued into structure from acting, but yeah, John Cho was underserved. He was good for what he was in. I thought the cop lady did a good job. I thought her kid was a bit okay. But, you know, the adult actors were all fine and well and good, but it's really the story of the script itself that I was focused on. And ultimately, by the end, it left a bit to be desired. So let's get into the effects.
Massive amount, in fact.
Okay,
Yeah.
so effects-wise, this is a Grudge movie, and the Grudge movies don't tend to be the goriest. I will say
And yet
that I
this is
think this was,
R-rated, and
yeah,
this is
I
them
think that
trying
this
to,
is
like,
the
push
goriest
the-
Grudge movie of them
Yeah.
all. There was a lot of blood used at parts. Some was cut away from, but some wasn't. And so it was interesting to see that. And then there was even, yeah, I don't know, like, it was a mixture. Like, there wasn't a ton of gore, but
It
the
still
stuff that
wasn't
was there
super-
was, you know, prominent enough that it was surprising. But it was R, but it was a weak R.
Yeah, it still feels to me like, I mean, were you trying to just push buttons or something of that nature because of the fact that, I mean, they've always been PG-13 previously, and I don't feel like the gore's merited, and that's the best thing that
The gore wasn't gore enough. It wasn't even worse than a lot of the Walking Dead episodes that we have out there.
No, and that's on, you know, AMC TV and stuff like that. So it's like, okay, are you trying to push some buttons and just, I don't know, follow the Deadpool aspect and some of these
They
other
didn't do
R-rated
that
films?
by any stretch.
Not
This
in any way,
felt
man.
very
I mean,
squarely like it was still in the mid-2000s for a horror movie.
yes, it felt very out of place in that regard. And I mean, with this franchise, like, maybe that makes sense because we haven't had like a theatrical sequel since, you know, what, 2007, 2008, something like that. So,
I don't know.
I mean, the other one was direct to video, as you mentioned, and so but I'm happy that, you know, Sam Raimi and Rob Tapert are actually still trying to produce stuff like this, and, you know, they still have an affinity for this particular property. That's the biggest thing. But this was a
Great.
massive misstep. Well,
Yeah, I mean, if they're
well,
not
I mean,
doing right
great,
by
dude.
it, what does it
Well,
matter?
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, I will say great because of the fact that it's obviously considered great over in Japan, and it's like
We'll
one
see.
of the,
We'll see how this is
one of the
received,
most
but-
beloved. I mean, all of those other properties that still.
But this isn't made for Japan. This is made for us.
Sure.
So it failed on a lot of levels for that.
Hmm.
It wasn't, again, it's not terrible. I don't think it's going to make it to the worst of 2020, even though it's literally the first horror movie we've seen of 2020.
Yeah, I've seen worse January horror movies over
Yeah.
the course of the years.
And in fact, we have 3 more January horror movies coming this year. I don't even think this will be the worst of all of those movies.
Probably not.
But it's not great.
Yeah.
It's not great. I don't think you need to rush out and see it. Wait for Redbox or whatever VOD service that you don't have to pay that much. You know, if you have a family that wants to see it, wait, pay it on VOD and just all watch it for $7.99 or $6.99, whatever it is.
If you have a family who wants
I'm
to
not
see
going to buy
movie,
this
I'm just,
until
like,
it's
laughing about it.
Black Friday status, like $4 Black Friday status. That's where I'm going to buy this movie.
It's like a complete the collection aspect sort of
Just
thing.
because
and just
I have
like
the
call
others.
It at that.
Yep. I might even just get DVD version because I have DVDs of the other one, not Blu-ray. So
Well, as long as there's no bonus features, I honestly often don't care in those regards.
real quick, let's talk about sound design. Okay, so they did lean on the.
A little bit, but not as heavily.
No,
and-
they did. I did feel like they leaned on it more than in the original.
In the back half, they did.
Yeah, a lot more. And it wasn't even, I don't know if that's giving away too much. Perhaps it might be giving away too much to say that it's not necessarily gender specific.
This is kind of its own
It's not
thing.
a gender specific sound effect, apparently.
Yeah, this is very much from story-wise what we've gauged its own thing as far as like.
It did. It tried to do its own thing. It's trying to launch its own sea of ships.
Yeah,
I don't know that it's going to be successful though.
It's like passing things along.
Is it as bad as Rings? That's the question.
Well, it's of
Rings sank that franchise. I don't think anyone's going to touch a Ring movie in a long
still
time.
of the Rings. It follows sort of like.
I
passing
think it's going to
things
do better
along,
than Rings. I think people are going to be willing to return to the Grudge sooner than they'll be willing to return to the Rings franchise.
Well, because of the fact that Rings had a bad prior franchise or
No,
installment.
1 and 2 were good.
No, installment.
No, that's what I'm saying. Rings. That's what I'm saying. Rings killed the franchise. Does this kill the Grudge once and for all? I don't think so.
I think this is like the Rings installment of this franchise.
After having seen this, I don't think it's going to make that much money. I don't think it'll make more than
Rings, the fact that they went.
Do you think it'll make more than $30 million?
Total? Like we're talking like total?
No, first weekend.
You kidding me?
This is gonna make what, 10?
This is gonna make like 7 or 8
6 or 7
million.
or 8? Okay.
Yeah.
30 million total then. Do you think it'll make that?
Anything,
Do you think it'll make 30 million total?
Nobody cares about this
I don't
movie,
think so
guys.
either.
Nobody cares.
And I don't think any word of mouth is going to change that.
No.
That's the issue.
Well, and there's not like going to be like terrible word of mouth, but it's definitely not going to be good word of mouth.
It's not going to be like everyone needs to go see this.
Yeah.
It's just going to be like, it was okay.
Yeah, Lin Shaye is like messing herself up a little bit, and then you've got like lots of chain smoking cops. I mean, I don't know. There's there's not really much beyond that, unfortunately. It's what else are you gonna do?
Yeah, not a whole lot. So, guys, I think that's going to pretty much do it for our review of the 2020 Grudge. This review is going to come out before our review of the first, the second, and the third. Those reviews are going to be coming within 7 days of this review, so
we're going
stay tuned for those. We are. We watched the first one. Fuego watched the first one. I watched all 3 before this, so I'm ready to review them, but he's got to watch 2 and 3 still. So you will have all the Grudge movies, our reviews of them, by the end of next week. But
it's actually funny. You're going like the Rings scenario where we're going like backwards with the 7 days.
A little bit. So why don't you guys let us know in the comments down below. Are you excited about this? Have you watched this? What did you think of this? Don't spoil it. This is a non-spoiler review, obviously, but let us know what your thoughts are in those comments down below. While you're down there, you can feel free to click the link for the Patreon, where you can actually tell us movies to review and other fun things like that. You can make us dance like puppets. But if you enjoyed the video, click the like button and subscribe to make sure you don't miss other videos like this going forward. Until next time, though, I've been Cecil Laird.
And I've been Jaime Fuego.
And remember, stay scared.